What's up everyone, Jimmy here from Base Game Reviews, and today we're diving into Obsidian's take on a fantasy RPG, Avowed. That 2020 teaser trailer had us all hyped for a dark, brutal Skyrim meets Destiny vibe, but 4 years later, did it deliver? Or did it get wrecked by some modern identity politics sprinkled on top? Let's tear into it and find out. How I played. I played Avowed via Xbox Game Pass for PC on my R7 7800X3D RTX 3080 gaming PC. I was playing on epic settings at 1440p with ray tracing disabled. Story: 9 out of 20. I remember those shut-in days of 2020 when an Xbox showcase dropped the first teaser trailer for Avowed. It was a CGI cinematic, but damn, it had some jaw-dropping visuals and oozed gritty dark fantasy vibes. Xbox fanboys were hyped out of their minds, dreaming of this being the title to flex the muscle of their shiny new Xbox Series X, the beefiest console at the time. Meanwhile, you could practically feel the PlayStation fanboys quietly seething that they weren't getting Avowed on their coveted platform. Fast forward 4 years and some change, and Avowed has finally launched. And what the hell is this? Is this even the same game we saw back in 2020? It doesn't look remotely close. That teaser was all about dark and brutal vibes. This? It's like a floral display in the Walmart arts and crafts aisle. The game kicks off with a slideshow dumping the world lore onto you, basically screaming, "We couldn't afford a real cinematic here." Then you're shuffled straight into the character creator, which we'll get to later. After that, you're hit with another cutscene where your character, who everyone just calls Envoy, crash lands on a deserted island with one lone survivor from your ship. This is where you pick up the basic controls and test out your combat skills. I'll give credit where it's due. The controls in combat actually feel pretty slick, but the whole intro experience, total snooze fest. I'm not here for this clunky start with the cutscene, jump to character creator, and then another cutscene nonsense. Just give me one solid opening cinematic to set up the lore, and then let me build my character and dive into the action. I've never played an Obsidian game before, but those cutscenes are bare bones as hell. The camera just awkwardly swings between each talking NPC and your dead-eyed, expressionless character. Get comfy because this game is packed with dialogue cutscenes like this. There are a few environmental cinematics to highlight world events, but even those don't hold a candle to PS2 era flair. I can't get over how bad all the NPCs and characters look in this game. Their faces all look like they're molded out of wax, and having to stare at these hideous facial expressions during the cutscenes is quite jarring. Watching the cutscenes in Avowed actually makes me wish I was watching the cutscenes in Starfield again. All the world building gets shoveled at you through endless dialogue scenes. I'm fine with chatter if it's sharp and engaging, but when I'm hit with options like check out my muscles 3 times, it's a slog. I kept wondering who this game was even for with all this yapping. I don't mind a convo wrapping up with a single dialogue choice, but Avowed drags you into full-on debates where you're picking multiple options in one go. Real talk. After a couple hours, I just started mashing A on the top choice. I didn't even care about the outcome, or if the options even mattered. Throughout the world of Avowed, you can find these notes from other NPCs or characters you might encounter later in the game. And this is also how the game decides to deliver some of its story and lore to you. Usually, I hate these, but after being soft-locked into a 20 dialogue option lecture, I welcome these notes. I know some of you will say I tanked the story experience by not diving into the dialogue choices, but trust me, this plot is the most generic, limp, cookie-cutter snooze imaginable. It reeks of being penned by a committee. Terrified of ruffling feathers, I can't believe this is what we got after that killer teaser trailer. Where's that game? Can I play that instead? I dug into this a little bit further to figure out what the hell happened. How does a game veer so far off track? And what I found is a classic, tired tale in the gaming industry. Obsidian kicked off Avowed's development in 2018, right around the time Microsoft scooped them up. Back then, the pitch they got to greenlight it was Skyrim meets Destiny. An open world vibe like Skyrim paired with Destiny's multiplayer and community hooks. That sounds dope as hell. The team started pre-production, hashing out the vision, then Xbox needed some hype fuel for the Series X launch, and that's how we got that 2020 teaser trailer. Back when Avowed was still a concept, even in 2019-2020. But then 2020 hit, and it was crunch time. Obsidian ballooned their team to juggle the Outer Worlds sequel and finish Avowed. They didn't even lock in a director until 2021, when Kerry Patel was assigned. Their only prior directing gig? An Outer Worlds DLC, Peril of Gorgon. Before that, they were mostly known at Obsidian for narrative design. And hey, I'm not here to judge a book by its cover, but I'm big on spotting patterns. You ever meet someone you just know how they'd vibe on certain topics? Yeah. Looking at this timeline, it's crystal clear how Avowed morphed from that teaser trailer to what we got. Under Patel's watch, it ditched the Skyrim-style open world for basic interconnected zones and axed the multiplayer entirely. Oh, and they plopped it into the Pillars of Eternity universe, another Obsidian IP where Patel had narrative chops. Graphics, 8 out of 15. To put it simply, what the f***? Let's ignore for a second the whole controversy with the lead design artist, and just look at these default characters in the character creator. This should tell you enough. I'm not going to be one of those completely delusional mainstream game critics who will jump through mental hoops to not address the issue here. These characters look stupid. They're offensively bad, and it's by design. The art team working on Avowed clearly had an agenda, and they wanted to ram it down your throat.
Dumb.
Stupid.
Crazy.
Everything looks like stock Unreal Engine 5 assets. Did they snag this from the UE store, or was it cooked up in-house? Who knows? Either way, it's all painfully generic. Maybe it's the lighting, and even with maxed out ray tracing, it still looks flat and uninspired. A couple of landscapes were decent enough, but I never hit a single wow moment with the visuals. The SFX are solid, magic effects pop nicely, but the environmental effects and basic collision, total letdown for a game of this size. Water effects and terrain textures feel low effort, even compared to other AA titles. The Outer Worlds isn't a graphical titan either, but I'd expect more interactive flair from a modern UE5 game. Audio, 6 out of 15. The ambience is bare minimum trash. Just stock open world noises that never got me pumped during my playthrough. This is a high fantasy game. You'd expect epic scores and hype tracks. Nope. Most of the music sounds like AI spat it out with a prompt like fantasy medieval vibes. Tired, generic, crank the intensity elevator tunes. And it loops for every boss fight. Pathetic, dude. This is criminal in a fantasy RPG game. Have none of the devs played a Final Fantasy game or From Software game?
You are not afraid. I am.
The boss battle should be pure hype, accompanied by insanely epic scores. The effect sounds are genuinely crisp, but the voice acting, absolute dog water. These actors are probably solid, but the dialogue feels disjointed, like it's read out of context. And with so much talking, it grates fast. Good sound design should pull me into the story. Here, it just had me rolling my eyes and sighing nonstop. Performance, 7 out of 10. I was actually able to achieve a great frame rate with my RTX 3080, getting 100 FPS plus with ray tracing off, and generally above 60-70 FPS with RT on. But this game suffers from traversal stutters and shader comp stutters, as with most UE5 games. So if I visited town for the first time, I would be in stutter hell. But as long as I did a quick lap around the town, I was fine from then on. The game actually ran pretty well. Didn't run into any major bugs, and Obsidian did perform multiple updates during the first weeks of release, making improvements. I ran into a few cosmetic issues and some NPC AI glitches, but nothing that wasn't just comically fun or majorly game breaking. Gameplay, 21 out of 40. The controls and combat are actually quite fluent and work great. I was genuinely surprised at how well this game plays. All of the weapons and magic feel great and are fun to use. So what the hell? How do you guys screw this up so badly? You had decent gameplay. I like the upgrade mechanics and how you could easily switch between weapons and magic without having to respec your character drastically. I felt like it was very open for players to try new weapons or spells and made combat very creative as you can mix and match between two different weapon sets. The pacing is kind of a crawl, but at least Avowed doesn't force you to take on bullshit side missions. But my main gripe is getting locked into these massively long dialogue moments that totally kill any momentum the game had built previously. You just fight a boss and triumph over it, and then you're trapped into a 10-minute yap session with a deity that sounds like a 90s meditation trance tape. The UI elements and HUD are decent. I felt like they could have been designed a little more sleek, and the start menu and other menu options were okay to navigate. Not terrible, but nothing super innovative here. You fight bears, tree women, and other generic skeleton bosses that later turn into regular enemies. Also, I hate that every boss fight is basically the same. You fight the main boss and they throw enemy ads at you. The single most designed boss in the game is a huge letdown. Most times I would just stumble into a boss thinking I was up against regular enemy mobs, then realize, oh, this is actually a boss fight. It's the same 5 enemies, just color coded depending on the biome you're in. Terrible. For a huge fantasy RPG, the imagination is quite limited on the different types of enemies available in Avowed. Again, maybe you could have cut down on writing terrible dialogue so you could focus more on diverse enemy designs. Your choice is taking on the pointless main quest line or the pointless side quest lines. Side quests and exploration can reward the player with money or items that will help you purchase better items or spells, but it is the bare minimum. There is zero reason to ever play Avowed more than once. I would even question playing it all the way through for a single time. As soon as I finished the game, I totally forgot the plot. Bonus, 0 out of 3. There are some accessibility options in Avowed, but nothing major, just typical options that you would see for subtitles and text size, and some gameplay quality of life items. It's not bare bones, but it's not something noteworthy or deserving of a bonus point. Overall, 52 out of 100. Fair. Avowed is a textbook case of a game director hijacking a project they've got no fire for. That original teaser trailer had something most gamers could vibe with, a grim fantasy RPG blending Skyrim's best open world bits with Destiny's multiplayer bits. But instead, we got a dull, pointless tale in a bright, cartoony world with plastic-looking characters. Carrie Patel did what they could as director, but this was a mismatch from the jump. It's a story gaming has seen too many times. Without the original visionary at the helm, it's doomed to stray from the dream. Maybe in some parallel universe, Avowed slaps. Here, it was a steaming pile of meh.